Hi, everybody. It's Camille from Yodel Pop, and I am excited to go live today for the first time in 2025. Haven't been live since 2024, so I'm excited to get back into doing these live videos where I just talk about a topic and just share my current experience with it. And today, I can't get any more current than sharing my experience of working with this new tool, one of HubSpot's awesome free tools. It's the AI grader. It's the AI search grader. And so I've been doing some experimenting with it. And this has to do with all this talk about AI search and how it's changing how people are searching, how our content and our brand is getting found online. So it's basically to me, it's the biggest change. AI, generative AI, AI search, everything that AI is impacting, to me, is the biggest change since the dawn of the internet. So we are going through a lot of major shifts right now. And at the center of it all is basically like how your content shows up online and how your brand shows up online, and how aligned is that with what you're doing with your content, with what your brand is doing and what your brand stands for, and that just the kind of conversations that are happening online, and the kind of traffic you're getting, and it all ties back to the whole idea of search everywhere. So, it used to be we focused a lot on website traffic. We focused on keywords and, is our content attracting traffic, and is it attracting the right traffic? Well, again, coming back to AI has really changed everything. And specifically, as we're talking about the AI grader that we're going to look at in a minute, it has changed search drastically. And so now we have to kind of start to shift our perspectives a little bit when we're thinking about how what we look like online, or how we are presenting our brand online. So, yeah, so the search grader fits into a bigger picture, again, of the search everywhere. And it fits into what I call the evergreen content ecosystem. However, the evergreen content ecosystem is just part of it. It's definitely still the foundation. So if you've watched some of my previous videos or looked at some of my content, you'll know that I talk a lot about evergreen content. And evergreen content is still extremely foundational when it comes to getting found online, because it's all about, your brand, your core topics that connect with your ideal audience. And that is really important. But what I'm learning through playing with this new AI grader is that we really have to, that's one piece of the puzzle, and that's a major piece of the puzzle, and it's certainly foundational. But then we also need to be looking at, again, our whole footprint across the internet. And this idea of this footprint is really not even a footprint anymore. It's more of our path, our landscape. What is our brand's digital landscape? And again, the content ecosystem is a huge part of that, and I believe that it's kind of the heart of everything, the nervous system, if you will, of your brand online. But there are other things to consider, and there are other things to consider. And AI search is teaching us what that looks like and what a holistic picture looks like of our brands online. So what I'm going to do is show here on my screen the AI search grader. So this, again, is a new free tool, relatively new free tool from HubSpot. They always give us these great tools to help us, evaluate our marketing and our content. And so playing with the AI grader, I went ahead and did a couple of searches. So let's go to the AI Grader homepage first. And I'll show you what this looks like um, when you first go here. So when you first go here, you're going to get this homepage. And so this is what I want to talk about and help you play with this a little bit. And when you play with this, so I want to talk about this in terms of not just this tool, but any of these tools, because there's a lot of tools out there. We're used to sort of the keyword tools and those types of things where we're more focused outward on like, what is our audience looking for? What keywords are they doing? Well, this tool is going to be more of an inward focused tool on your brand. And so I want to help you use this tool in a way that is going to be positive and in a way that is going to help you start to put more of the pieces of the puzzle together than just your content, just your like long form content, your videos, whatever, what have you. But start to put together more of a puzzle and get the clarity that we all need around how we're being found online today with AI search and with search everywhere. And so whether it comes to this tool or any of the other tools, even if you're going back to like keyword research tools and things like that, I think it's really important just to think about take a step back and have some perspective and realize that this is just a technical tool. It's going to be really helpful. And it's going to give us some insights, but we have to, just like with AI, we have to bring our own human brain to the scenario, and we have to think about other things with our brand. So I guess what I'm saying is don't take it literally, and maybe I'm just saying that because I had to say that to myself with this tool, because again, it is a little bit more of an inward looking tool, more of a gut check on your brand. So this is the homepage that you'll get to when you use the AI search grader. Now you'll see there's 4 fields here, and they look pretty simple, right? It's like company name, location, product or service, and company type. So now this is where I would suggest tip number 1 is that you try it with different prompts in these fields. So obviously you could put your company name or your organization's name. You'll put the location. You can think about the location too, like if your market is more local, maybe it's more global, just kind of think about that. And you can also try different things with that and this will make more sense in terms of trying different things as I go through this a little bit more. This is the field where you might want to try different things in this field, even if it's not necessarily a current product or service, but maybe something you're dabbling in, or it's newer or something like that, or it's a more of a legacy product or service. So there's like a whole spectrum when it comes to what you can put in this field. And I would recommend trying a couple of different things. And I'll show you what I did for my brand, Yodel Pop, and what happened when that happened. So let's move over to that, because what I found was that when I did it today, it took a bit longer than in the past, and I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure if that's like a lot of people are using it, or I have also noticed that my AI assistant that I've been using has been a little slower and a little glitchy lately too. So not sure what's going on there, but because it was a little slow, I went ahead and just kept open a couple of searches that I did. Okay, so really exposing some vulnerability here, because when I looked at this grader, and this is why I said what I was saying before, I got kind of like, oh no, at first, I was like, oh my goodness, these look like terrible scores. I looked at it and felt like I failed a test, or I failed one of HubSpot certifications, which I've only failed one once. But then I just retook it and passed it the second time. PS, some of those certifications are not easy. But anyway, I felt like, oh no, I'm failing, and I I went to that place of comparison because there's definitely, and warning, trigger warning, if you have any comparison, okay, more so for entrepreneurs, maybe not necessarily like if you're part of a team in an organization, although it can come up there too. But, you know, just check your comparison issues at the door when you come into this, and try to come at it with just neutrality and just, curiosity, and like, oh, I wonder, let me just look and see, what I can learn from this. If you do that, then you should be okay. And I'll talk a little bit more about how you can contextualize what you find, and I'll talk about how I contextualized what I found currently. And I've actually done this a few different times over the last month, I would say 3 weeks or so. And I found different scores, a little bit different scores. And so I don't know what that means because I'm not the engineer behind all of this. But that's just another thing to keep in mind when you're approaching a tool like this, is just to keep it, in perspective, and maybe try it a few times. And like I said, try it with a few different prompts in here, just slight variations of your business or your organization, just so you can kind of get it from a few different angles. So here's the first one I tried, where I put in, I'll tell you what I put in. I'm just going to be fully transparent here. I put in content marketing, because that's what we've done for many years. So what I found is I'm seeing a score of 45, and this is where really, I had to sort of step back and do a little bit of research on what this means. So I recommend that you could do some research on what brand sentiment means. You could even use AI like ChatGPT or another assistant outside of this tool, or outside of a tool baked into a tool, but go to the native AI assistant and just ask questions. Just say, hey, what does this mean? And what could this mean for my brand? And ask a few follow-up questions, right? So don't just take what the tool says here, because this is a tool. This is like a tool that is probably, you know, really eating up a lot of different data from all over. So you could take this and then you could break it down and do some research. And that's exactly what I did with mine. So when I ran this through, I just, again, once I was able to step back, I just thought, okay, this is interesting. This is how AI is seeing my brand online. Overall, it's mostly positive. And when I did a little bit more research, it's like 12% doesn't necessarily mean anything, super bad. It could be pretty normal. Um, so then that's where I realized, boy, I really need to kind of take this all in perspective. So I started thinking it through, and this is why I wanted to talk to you about this, because as I started thinking it through, like kind of starting from here and then stepping back and analyzing everything, I started to really get some interesting perspective on my own business and my own brand. So I thought about things like, we've been a business for a long time. So we've been around since 2011. We've been online since then. We have a long digital footprint. And like many businesses, it could mean like maybe we have outdated mentions or reviews, or AI misinterpretations can get factored in as well. So what I realize is just that, like, the things that there are things that are out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. And so I guess that one of the biggest takeaways and tips that I can share about this is that I any brand, or organization, or any online presence that you have, it is good to take an inventory of everywhere. Again, we're in search everywhere era now. So everywhere your brand is online, everywhere it exists online. Again, and I'm guilty of this, like where I just think about the website or the content. Um, and for example, we have a HubSpot partner profile where we have reviews. I just usually tend to think about that because that's more front of mind, and um, you know, that's more of where our centralized reviews are. I wasn't even thinking about reviews that maybe I've never seen before, or mentions, or any of that. And first of all, I mean, those that might not be exactly what it is when it says 12%. It could be other things. And again, AI search is newer. And so it's a matter of digging a little deeper. But the point is not to figure out what, AI search is doing here, but to just use it as an opportunity to look at our brand, to look at our brand, to step back and to think, what might I be missing? Where could the gaps be? Where I could simply be going and optimizing. Maybe it's that I have YodelPop has profiles out there that we haven't claimed. And so, we're a small team, and we don't have exactly resources to do all of that. So it's not gonna, you can look at these scores and not think, oh, it's a crisis, but just signaling how you can refine how you show up online. And that way, you know that if you're building let's say you're building your evergreen content, which is again what we tend to focus on and what we help our clients focus on, we also have to think about, all of the other different kinds of ways that we show up online. And so this was really insightful for me to look at this, not to bash on my brand or anything like that. And this doesn't necessarily mean bad. I mean, look, there's 50% positive. That's the majority, and that's great. So this gives me a place to start and to think more about my online or YodelPop's online presence, and you know um, just get clarity. I mean, clarity leads to, you know, more consistency and more concrete action steps that you can take to have a bigger and better impact with your brand. And so that's how I'm looking at it. Now, I noticed on this that I kept having these, I kept having some errors. So you could notice that. But this part is how your brand presence measures up in your industry. And so this is where you can see kind of where you are in your industry in terms of competition, if you will, or other relevant organizations or brands, and just kind of like where you are in the pie, I guess. And again, not necessarily something to look at and you know, freak out one way or the other about it, unless you're like taking up a big part of the brand presence, then awesome. Um, but it's just a kind of it helps give you some different angles to think about. Like, for example, you could look at this and think, which is what I thought when I did this search this time, was I've never actually heard of any of these brands before. I did this in another session where I had 6% or 6% negativity score over here, and I recognized all the brands here. So now that kind of helps me too. It helps me think, well, what was the prompt that I put in here? I put in content marketing. What was the prompt I put in before where it seemed like I was falling more within my actual industry with names that I recognize? And so hopefully you can begin to see, like, it really helps to bring your whole brain to this and to just take it with a grain of salt, and but take it as another tool that is going to help you, not don't stay status quo. That's, I guess, like one of the biggest takeaways or tips, that I want to share, is to not keep your head in the sand. I know I tend to want to do that sometimes. I'm busy. I've got enough going on. I don't want to have to like deal with new things like AI and, search everywhere. And yet and it's here. It's here to stay. And if I want to succeed online, I've got to like get with it, and I've got to understand what's changing, and start to just experiment and look at ways that I can utilize the new technology and to help my brand, and to help me iterate and improve my brand, because it's progress, not perfection. I'm always going to be working, Yodel Pop is always going to be working to improve our brand, and that's what everyone should be doing, is optimizing and iterating. And this is just another tool to help you. So I wanted to show you a comparison. So this is HubSpot. I put HubSpot in here just like it suggests on the homepage, where it has the suggested, or the what do you call those, where it's just like uh, placeholder. So I just did the placeholder ones in there, and I got the HubSpot. So HubSpot is a really big company, and they are traded on the market and all of that. And so it's just interesting to see, like, of course, they have a great score, 77. Their brand sentiment is, you know, this is really interesting to look at. And you could do that when you're doing your brand. You could do a few different versions of your brand, and then you could do a version of maybe a competitor, or maybe just a big company. So you can, or a company your own size, and then maybe a company bigger size, or an organization bigger size, so that you can kind of, again, you can contextualize your own, right? So I know when I'm looking at this, and this is a different one that I did for Yodel Pop's brand, which I put in something different. And um, I can't remember what it was, but I just kind of put in something a little off, or a little different, or it's kind of something we do, just to see, again, just to experiment. And this one said, I really, had a lot of room for growth. This one was more neutral, which made sense, because I think what I put in, like, there's just a ton of competition for it. It's, oh, I remember now, it was being a HubSpot partner agency. And that's really broad, and so that it kind of makes sense. So this is what I was talking about, by if you put in different angles to your brand, you can kind of start to formulate something. And you could even start to say, oh, well, gosh, I this is a really saturated market that I'm competing in. So maybe I should think about how I can niche more or differentiate more. So these are the kind of thoughts that you can start to have about this. So jumping back over to HubSpot score here, it's just nice to get like a kind of contextualize, and get a broader picture of how this tool does the grading here, when thinking about another company, or a bigger company, or a company of the same size, etc. And so my guess is that, whatever the negative means, right? Okay, let's go back to that for a second. It could really mean a lot of different things, and we don't know exactly for sure everything that it's picking up with this tool. It could just mean, there could just be comparisons where there's a competitor that comes out more on top, and that could make a negative score. So it doesn't necessarily mean negative, but it just means when, a brand has been compared to other brands, it maybe just didn't quite, another brand won out a little bit. So again, just kind of stepping back and taking it with a grain of salt. But like this one right here, and looking at HubSpots, and it's a lot easier to look at another brand's score, and it can help you, like, oh, okay, if I look at this brand's score and I think about that brand and everything I know about that brand, my guess is that they probably really stay on top of all the review sites, anywhere, because one brand within an industry, your brand could be on, 20, 30, 40, maybe more, like, review sites, all different review sites for that industry. And so my guess, for example, here would be that HubSpot is probably way on top of all of their different where they show up in reviews. They go and they are proactive about that. Whereas a brand that's smaller may not have the resources to be on top of wherever it shows up. So these are just some more examples of how you can think about using this tool to help you think about pivoting and shifting how you're found online and not missing any opportunities to improve your brand online. Making sure that it reflects who you are, because that's something I feel when I look at this and the Yodel Pop brand. I think, boy, I really want to make sure that, I can't control, what is the big, big wide world, the big vast internet. I can't control it, but what I can do is make sure that wherever possible, our brand reflects outwardly what we are inwardly, And so that's where that kind of gut check comes in. It's like, I think I have feelings about our brand and I see we do good work and all of that. But if it's not matching on the outsides, then that's something that I would have to do something about, and that a brand would need to, in my mind, it's worth the impact it could have to take the time to do something about that. So thanks for joining me today. And I would love to hear what you think about this tool. I'd love for you to try it out and then tell me what happens. Tell me what happens when you experiment with it, and what you learned. I mean, I guess the biggest thing is I'd love to just give me 3 insights that you had about your brand, because I'm going to continue using this tool. And I'm going to do some of the scary things of like digging into, where is the Yodel Pop brand like invisible to me online? And, maybe I can just go and get reality checks about these scores and like, where could these be coming from? And just making sure that, that I kind of like go, that I'm, that our brand is presenting itself with eyes wide open, especially going forward with all of these AI changes. So I'm going to keep working with this and keep sharing about what I find out and how I go about, righting the ship when it comes to AI search and the Yodel Pop brand. And I would just love to hear again, if you try it out, give me like your top 3 insights and let's keep the conversation going. And thank you so much for